Hey, good morning, and welcome back to Taylor Time Live. I'm your host, Seth Gladden, and today we're going to be starting our series on selling more adhesive. I encourage you, if you didn't check it out, to go watch January's episode with our president, Paul Murphin, where he talked about setting strong goals and the importance of selling more adhesive when you're selling flooring. So we're going to be continuing that today. I do encourage you, you can go back. We have a lot of previous episodes on our YouTube. You can check those out. You can catch those via our website. Just go to the top, hit the YouTube button at the top, or you can go to Taylor Time and hit the live drop down and find those there. We also have a bunch of great tips, other things that you can access as well. But I'm excited today. We are joined by Shelley Ackerman, who is one of our own. Lucky to have her. And she's joining me remotely. Shelley, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Seth. Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
Of course, yeah. We've had you on a couple times, but it's good to have you back. So, hope to get you live in studio with us again one day. So we'll
Thanks
work
for the
on that.
warning.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, Shelley, before we get started on selling more adhesive, or what we named today, I guess, which is a new perspective on adhesives or flooring adhesives, right? If you could tell us a little bit about your history in the industry, kind of how you got started, your travels through, and then how you ended up here at Taylor.
Wonderful. Thanks, Seth. I'd be happy to. I actually started my career as an interior and architectural designer for about 9 years, working on a variety of complex commercial projects, everything from country club renovations to a lot of facilities planning. So that was on the interior and architectural side. And then I joined Armstrong Flooring and spent what was going to be 1 year, and it turned into a very quick 22 years at Armstrong. As they say, once you get into the flooring business, you never get out, and that certainly
Yep.
holds true. I had a variety of different positions at Armstrong, everything from A&D specifications. So I think back to my younger self as a specifier, and now I'm a salesperson at Armstrong calling on my peers at Armstrong. And I also led some sales teams, worked on the national account group, did some business management at Armstrong. So a variety of different positions from different lenses. Took a little bit of a turn and spent about 18 months in the furniture distribution world. Again, just kind of hearkening back to my interior design days, because you never forget systems furniture, but I also found out that you never forget your love of flooring. So I got sucked right back into flooring when I joined Taylor 18 months ago. And it's been a fantastic ride with Taylor. And I'm very happy to learn another side of the flooring business.
Yeah. Well, from your history and the years you've worked, it sounds like you started working when you were about 2. So,
Yeah, don't do the math
congratulations
for
on
me,
that.
please.
Yeah, I won't. I won't. I won't. No, but seriously, it sounds like you've had quite the ride, and you said it. We've said it. I think everyone in the industry says it. But once you get into flooring, you are stuck, and if you leave, you probably come back. So
Yeah,
we
that's
are
kind of
we're
my
glad to have
corny
you
joke
back.
now is, now that we're in the adhesive space, you're stuck with me, you're stuck in flooring. I mean, it's
Right?
that common theme.
Yep, that's right. Well, Shelley, what I'd love to do is just kind of talk a little bit about the perspectives that you've had and how that has shifted for you over the course of your career, not just over the times that you've spent there, but the different roles, because you have actually kind of the perfect, which is why you're on this episode, but you have the perfect history of kind of taking through those different stages. And so let's start. You said you started as a specifier designer, right? So let's start there. And what was your view of flooring adhesives back then? Let's start there, and then, yeah,
Sure.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, as you said, I started working when I was 2, so I don't really know how
Right.
intelligent I was as a specifier designer at the ripe old age of 2. But as a specifier and a designer, honestly, Seth, adhesives were kind of an afterthought. I mean, you were more worried about selecting the right finished flooring for the space that you were designing, taking into consideration aesthetics, performance, acoustics, price point, all of those things. So as a specifier and a designer, adhesives kind of fell into the boilerplate spec. Well, follow the adhesive or follow the flooring manufacturer's recommendations for adhesive, or aligning yourself with a trusted flooring contractor that's going to know how the products are going to be installed, what adhesives to recommend there. Very rarely, as a specifier or designer, did I influence a specification for an adhesive.
Right. So obviously working, for flooring adhesive, I think any adhesive manufacturer or salesperson would hear what you just heard, and that's kind of a dagger through the heart, right? Like, we didn't think about adhesives, but that's the reality, right? That's probably the majority of designers, of specifiers. And as you mentioned, you gave a very probably condensed list of other things that you had to worry about, other things that you were focused on. Why do you think adhesives didn't play a role? And then we'll come back to, like, now that you're here and now that your perspective has changed, like, what would you tell your former self? But let's start with why you think that adhesives didn't really matter.
Well, and I mean, I hate to say this, especially now, to say that adhesives didn't matter, but it was usually, and think about it, I mean, everybody learns from an experience. So a lot of times adhesives didn't matter until they mattered. So,
Right.
until you had, a failure on a project or a unique job site condition that, you're doing a job site walk with your flooring contractor that's on the project or trying to solve a problem, that's when the adhesives become more meaningful and they may matter. But, again, it's usually as an afterthought. So, I think as a
Right.
specifier and a designer, when you learn that real world experience or having that troubleshooting or trying to find the perfect solution, and because I know Taylor makes a lot of those perfect solutions for spaces, I would like to think that that's where, as a specifier designer, that should almost become more important because there are smart solutions out there to solve problems.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you just said, I think, is important, and I want you to expand on a little bit. But the fact that, like, for you as a specifier designer, the only time you really thought about adhesives, what you just said, was when there was a problem, right? And our
Yeah.
whole goal in adhesives is you don't really know we're there, like, ever. That's the goal, right? Like,
Yeah.
you never want that to happen. But that's a very reactive state of mind, right? So I guess, how would you recommend to a designer or a specifier to be more proactive and care about adhesives the way that you do now?
A great question. And I know everyone is different, in their skill sets and, sort of how much they want to learn. I think that I was just always kind of geeky when it comes to troubleshooting, concrete installation, the more technical side of interiors and spaces. So it's a lot of asking questions and walking job sites and partnering with a flooring contractor or a general contractor to learn some of those challenges on site. Um, you can't really force feed a specifier to say, you need to learn more about adhesives. But, again, I think just having a general awareness that there are products out there that you may not know about on a day-to-day basis. But if you come to a flooring contractor or an adhesive salesperson or even a flooring distributor with a particular challenge as a specifier, we'll be able to solve those problems with something like an adhesive. You may not think about an adhesive
Right.
as being a problem-solving product, but guess what? They're out there.
Yeah, they absolutely can be. So, how long do you think, back in your designer days, how long do you think, if you had sat down with someone like you, from someone like Taylor, how long do you think it would have taken for you to get a basic understanding enough to be able to go out and talk about adhesives then? Are we talking 5-minute conversation? Are we talking, 10, 30-minute conversations? What does that look like to gain at least the basic type of knowledge?
Well, I think it honestly depends on how much you want to know. I mean, if you're really interested in knowing about adhesives and chemistries and substrates and all of that, I mean, we can talk for hours over that. If it's something that's, you really don't want to learn about, you just want to know who to call, that's kind of the other option. There's got to be a desire there. I think too, there's an opportunity for us as an adhesive manufacturer to kind of break down some of the lingo within the adhesive space as well, because it doesn't need to be incredibly technical. I mean, you can just bore someone to death talking about adhesives.
Right.
Trust me, it happens. But we can also kind of dial it back to make it more relatable. I mean, I think people don't realize, that they've been using adhesives probably since they were kids. Like think about
Right.
Elmer's glue or rubber
Yeah.
cement or, all of that. I mean, adhesives are around us all the time. So, I think they
Yeah.
can be fun and they can be relatable, but we just don't need to make them so incredibly technical. So, I think that could be an interesting conversation with someone if they're, interested in knowing, and there should always probably be a cocktail involved.
All right. Well, cocktail aside for this, maybe we will actually be talking about all of that stuff this year. That's our goal this year on Taylor Time Live is to talk about adhesives in a way that's different, that's not as technical, that's more like 30,000 foot view, and the information that you would need as a specifier designer or as a flooring salesperson or as a even just like a flooring distributor salesperson, a contractor, things like that.
I think we can make
So we will,
adhesives conversational.
yeah, absolutely, and that's our hope. So, I think last question on the specifier, and then we'll move through kind of it to the next stage of your career. But how often would you say you got those calls where you had a floor that had gone wrong, and then how did you have to deal with that?
Oh, geez. Probably too often, but again, it's because I threw myself in the middle of those phone calls because that's personally, how I learned, was firsthand experience. And, at the time, as either a specifier or even back to my Armstrong days, I would volunteer to go walk a job site and kind of listen to the experts and try to troubleshoot what went wrong. Was it an incompatible adhesive? Did that adhesive go over a sweeping compound? Was it a wrong adhesive for the type of flooring that was being installed? Did they get on the adhesive
Right.
too soon? I mean, all of these things that, we probably in this industry have been on and understand. That's really, kind of how I learned. And I think that's how a lot of
Yeah.
people learned as well.
So if you had spent that amount of time learning about adhesives, you probably would have never had to go walk a job site with a failure, right? Or
Yes and
maybe
no.
never. Let's not say never, because I mean installation factors in. We'll talk about that too. But I think like, would you say looking back that you would recommend to a specifier or designer like just take a little bit of time, learn a little bit about adhesives so that you are dangerous enough and hopefully can avoid some of those situations?
Yes, absolutely. Know how the space is going to be used, know the finished floor that you're going to put into that space, again, for compatibility reasons. And again, I think it's really important for a specifier and designer to partner with a trusted flooring contractor or distributor salesperson to really educate them and teach them. And, oh, by the way, you can also make friends with your adhesive salespeople as well.
Yeah,
And, we can tell you more than you ever wanted to know.
that's right. So Shelley, let's fast forward. You said you were in the design world, what, 9 years, right?
9 years.
So now you're 11 years old and you start selling flooring for Armstrong, right? So let's fast forward to that segment of your career. And you said you were planning on being there a year, and it turned into quite a few years. But let's talk about your perspective shift when you went from a designer to a flooring salesperson
Sure.
on
I mean,
adhesives.
from a designer to a flooring salesperson, and on the adhesive side, incredibly technical. And I think that's what really attracted me to join Armstrong from design was I knew I wanted to be a salesperson on the architectural product side, and I wanted something that was incredibly technical. I got it. Flooring is an incredibly technical product. And then, to your point, adhesives are also a big component of the success of an installation. So as a flooring salesperson, specifically with Armstrong and with a lot of other major manufacturers, adhesives are probably private labeled, and that becomes a very big part of the overall system where you have the specified flooring product, usually a private label or a specified adhesive. And then, you can even throw into the maintenance after the fact of those installations as well. So it's really kind of knowing that sandwich that you're building, from the adhesive, the finished floor, and then even how that space is going to be used on top. So as a flooring salesperson, again, you need to know the compatibility. Is this adhesive recommended for sheet products? Is it plank products? Is it carpet products? And not all adhesives are created equally. There are some
Sure.
that can do all things. But then again, it depends on the type of product and the space that you're using it. So as a flooring salesperson, I really learned enough about adhesives to feel confident to make some strong recommendations to my former self as a specifier and a designer.
Okay. So do you feel like, obviously hindsight's always 2020, right? But knowing now, after being at Taylor for the last 18 months and looking back at your days at Armstrong, how much do you feel like you really did know about adhesives, and how has that changed for you?
I think, Armstrong had an incredible reputation for training people. So I would say that I knew I had confidence to recommend the right products for the right adhesives. As far as chemistry goes, that was not our wheelhouse at all. We just knew because we installed the products. We walked job sites. We talked to our tech teams. So again, that's where a lot of our confidence came from. And, you don't question it. It's, this adhesive goes with this flooring because, as the manufacturer, you've done all the extensive testing. And, you walk the talk. So having now spent 18 months at Taylor, I think, oh my God, I look at all the things that I did not know. So by the grace of God, there were successful installations out there because there is so much chemistry that is in adhesives. And, I know this much, but I also know that, now being on the adhesive side, we have some incredibly smart chemists, scientists, technical folks that do a lot of the testing that are, again, just giving me another level of confidence in the adhesive space for some great projects.
Yeah. So, Shelley, obviously in your time, in the industry, both on the design and the flooring world, you ran into a lot of other people, a lot of other companies, a lot of other sales. How do you feel that Armstrong, and I guess maybe I shouldn't pick on them, but how do you feel the average flooring salesperson? So pick any company that manufactures or sells flooring. How do you feel the average flooring salesperson compares to maybe the knowledge that you had? Because it sounds like you are naturally drawn to that more technical, more chemical, side of things. Do you feel that's normal?
No, it's not normal.
Okay. So do you think, I guess the question I'm asking is, like, comparatively, do you feel like Armstrong had a more robust training program? Do you feel like that maybe there's a lot of salespeople out there that maybe didn't take the time you did when you were at Armstrong to learn and to walk job sites?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I am not the exception to the rule. I think I said it before that I kind of geek out when it comes to, the more technical side of flooring. And guess what? You don't have to be geeky in this side of the flooring space to be successful. It's just something that I was super passionate about. So I just want to, make that clear that I am not the poster child for exemplary salespeople at all. But it's just that was more of my passion. I know a lot of companies out there who have extensive training for products, installation, maintenance, even, hands-on training, and then continuing education training, all of the different organizations for accreditation and things. I think as a professional, we owe it to ourselves to continue learning. So, again, that was just me, taking it upon myself. So as a successful flooring person, you do not have to know everything there is to know about adhesives. Again, I think it's just all knowing who to contact or who to partner with when you do have a question or a challenge. And again, that's where you learn if you're willing to learn.
Well, and there are so many people in the sales world in flooring that there's always new, there's people retiring and headed out, and there's always new recruits coming in, new people, and that's really where, there's a lot of people that need that training, that need that understanding, and that's where you were talking about earlier. Keep it conversational, adhesive 101, or we could be cheesy, right? Stick to the basics.
Try to stick to the basics. Well,
You
and
know,
two, I think this is a people business. That's what's, sucked me in for all of these years. And you know that to be true as well. You make friends in this business and even friends with competitors. But guess what? We always learn something at every turn. So, it's not like it's a adversarial relationship with people in the industry because A, you never know where you're going to land. But B, there's always
right.
something to learn from, a friend or a foe as well. So I always welcome
Yeah.
those exchanges.
Yeah. So, I think looking back now, would there be any advice you would give to flooring salespeople in general, to your former self maybe, about flooring adhesives? Or do you feel like you had a pretty good working knowledge and you were good? How's that perspective changed for you now?
I didn't know enough. I mean, in all honesty, coming now to Taylor and understanding the complexities of adhesives, again, by the grace of God, were there ever successful flooring installations? And I have the utmost respect for flooring contractors that are good at their jobs because so much can go wrong on a flooring job site. So, advice to my younger self, I would say, again, just partner with a trusted advisor, a flooring contractor, a distributor representative, a manufacturer's representative, someone like that. Again, I think all of us come from a lens or a place where, as a specifier or designer, there are so many different finishes to worry about, and adhesives, they're silent. You don't see them. They don't really do anything to enhance the aesthetics of your space, but they do things to enhance the overall performance and use of the space. And I think as a specifier and a designer, it's a responsibility to provide a great space to that end user. And by specifying the right adhesive, you've then created that right space that there's no problems or callbacks or challenges for that end user once you are off that job
Yeah.
site.
Yeah, and you keep talking about the right space, like use the right things for that space. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like when you were selling flooring, obviously when you were designing, you know exactly what you're designing. Is it a hospital or a business office or whatever it might have been? But when you were in the flooring sales world, how connected were you to knowing exactly where this product was being used? Does it need to handle, heavy rolling point loads or, different things like that? How connected were you in the flooring versus the specifier or design role?
That's where your obligation really lies as a flooring salesperson, is to coach those specifiers and designers. There's different levels of experience within the A&D community as well. You may have a junior specifier designer that's maybe not that familiar with the performance or particular product that should be used in a space, and they're just worried about color pattern and texture. As a flooring salesperson, it's your responsibility, my responsibility, everyone's responsibility to make sure that you're selecting the right floor for the right space. I mean, you said it. If you're working in an operating room or a healthcare facility, those flooring choices are going to be very different than they're going to be in a country club. So again, it's helping coach that specifier on the performance, because you can still create very beautiful spaces in a healthcare setting, but you also need that high performance, that cleanability of particular flooring products. So that's where, as again, a flooring salesperson, you're coaching, you're guiding, you're suggesting, and you're educating at the same time.
Yeah. So then let's take a look at more of the, I guess, like distribution, maybe even flooring retailer, flooring contractor, at those, and what perspective do you think, what perspective do you think they have, and how could that be maybe shifted through a little bit more education or training on adhesives in general?
Sure. One of my jobs as a flooring salesperson was also partnering with the assigned distributors in my territory, as well as local flooring contractors. So, I look at the job of a flooring salesperson as being that person to impart that knowledge on your particular products. So, it's taking that training that I received as the flooring salesperson and back to my Armstrong days, and imparting that same knowledge for a flooring contractor or the distributor sales rep to give them the confidence in your products. And then, again, just holding hands when you walk a job site, or holding hands when you go to call on a designer or specifier, that you're both working on the same project together, and, having those conversations. I think, again, as a specifier, we relied very heavily on those partnerships with a flooring contractor to know, product quality, availability, the right adhesives, the right installation methods, all of those things. So again, it becomes very much a community that helps build the interior space.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think it almost goes without saying, but just the points of connection, how many there are between, what you need to know in every different job role and how that connects to every other job role. We really haven't touched on it, but let's spend a minute on installation now, right? Because we've talked a lot about product, flooring product, adhesive product, environment of where it goes, but installation is a huge portion of any successful or unsuccessful job site as well. So I guess what would be your advice or perspective on, as you've shifted through the different worlds of design to flooring salesperson to now adhesive salesperson, how has your perspective of flooring installers and installation changed?
Sure, Seth. Honestly, I have the utmost respect for the hard work of a flooring installer. I mean, it's an incredibly demanding job, and we, see the amount of skill and craftsmanship that goes into some of these installations. So again,
absolutely, yeah,
they definitely have my utmost respect, and it's hard work. But I also think that it's very rewarding too. You look at the pride that a lot of flooring contractors have when they, get up off the floor and they take a step back and, they said, "Hey, I did this." So, yeah. I look at it as, again, that partnership with the flooring contractor. And even if it's, a project manager that's representing the flooring contractor and walking the job site and understanding how products are installed, because, you think of a modular product, which is relatively easier to install than something perhaps like a 6-foot or a 12-foot sheet good product that, maybe needs to be heat welded and all of those things. And then, look at the heavy boxes of carpet tile or, broadloom carpets that are being installed. So, again, I think all of that is, again, just on the job learning. And that's the partnership that I think becomes really important for that successful installation.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what I was looking more for was, did you have a perspective, like what was your view of how important flooring installation was as a designer, and then how did that shift of how important you felt it was when you sold flooring, and then now? So has there been, maybe there hasn't been a shift, but has there been a shift in your view?
Yeah, there was a big shift. When I was a specifier designer, it was just magic. You wrote the specification and the order happened and it got installed and you walked it and that was it. There wasn't any behind the scenes. But I'm being a little facetious, but it was just pure magic and a little bit of luck. As a specifier and designer, on the flooring salesperson side, working for a major manufacturer, again, it was taking all that training and, application and putting it into real world use. So then, walking the job sites, working with the flooring contractor, doing some of the troubleshooting ahead of time. I can tell you, I walked through many job sites where, the concrete wasn't ready for installation, or the subfloor prep was poor at best, or the underlayment wasn't approved. All of those things that go into play. And again, that's where also the flooring contractor and or distributor, we go in together and we evaluate some of those things. And then now, knowing where I sit today, on the adhesive side, there are some cool new solutions. So, again, if I look at the span of, in my case, my career, a lot's happened in the 30 years that, we did the math, didn't we? A lot's happened in those few years.
You did. I did not.
I know. I did it. But a lot of technology has happened. And, that's the really cool thing, I think, right now with adhesives is, there's a lot of base chemistries that really haven't changed, but there's also a lot of really cool products that are designed to solve some of the problems that are out there that I wish would have been around, 25 years ago when I was walking a lot of job sites and seeing some of these challenges.
Sure. Well, I guess we're about out of time here, but just kind of in closing, Shelley, do you have any last like either advice or perspective shifts we might call that you would just give advice to any flooring salesperson, designer, specifier, contractor, installer? I know that's a lot, but we talked about them, right? So any last words of advice you would say?
I don't know if it's advice, other than, adhesives are kind of cool. That's not just because, I now work for Taylor, but, it's really refreshing. And I think that they can solve problems. So I think back to the whole theme of this whole session today is a fresh perspective on adhesives. Again, it's not so much getting into the nitty gritty of the chemistry. It's just, knowing your partnerships, knowing what your design intents are, knowing the type of products and installations that you're going for, and then just partnering with the right people. Again, it's not rocket science, but it is cool adhesive science. So
Yeah.
that's the fun part. Again, I never really gave much thought to adhesives, but now I do, and now I know why.
Yeah. Well, and adhesives are used in rockets too, just not
Yeah, they are.
ours, but
Right.
they're everywhere. So,
Right.
well, Shelley, thank you so much for joining. It's been great, a ton of useful information, and definitely looking forward to having you back on future episodes this year.
I'm really honored that you had me, Seth. I hope it wasn't too much of the Shelley Ackerman show, because that was not my intent at all.
Nope, not a bit. No, it was great having you. So thank you again for joining, and we'll catch up with you next time you're on. So
Sounds great. I'll see you in studio next time, Seth. Thanks.
sounds good. We'll look forward to it. That is all the time we have for today. I would encourage you, go check out our website, download our app. You can find it in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Just Taylor Adhesives is all you have to search. It'll pop up there. Download that. It's an awesome tool. Follow us on social media. Check out everything that we're doing. Don't forget about Taylor Time Live every third Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. And until next time, just remember we are Taylor Adhesives, and we are with you every step.